the big international development organization to help strengthen their financial management system. After decades of working with these CSOs through our work with the international NGOs, we discovered that most of these local NGOs would love to prepare good financial records or have their financial management system strengthened. Even when the fund managers come in, they find it difficult to sustain that financial management strengthening. And that is because of the inability of the CSOs and the development, the local NGOs to continue to subscribe or pay premium costs of accounting softwares that were left for them by the fund managers, the big fund managers. So for that reason, we're able to develop something that these implementing partners, these CSOs, these local NGOs, and even profit-making organizations who cannot afford the big ERPs, the SAPs, the Surge software, the Tally and others, they can't afford it. They can fall back to this e-financial reporting system and prepare their report accurately. So, and we are going to demonstrate that now by looking at each module in this software. It is basically developed using Visual Basics, Visual Basic combined with advanced Excel, combined with macros. These are the combination of the various, modules that were put together to produce this template. So let's see how it will work, and if it works for you, you see that something that can be used. You can extend it to these CSOs, and we are available to train them on how to use it. The objective is to make sure that we give back that little that we have learned to these people that actually implement the activities of development work, so that each dollar, each cent, each pound that is donated from outside or by the donor will have to count in the financial reporting. Let's look at the first part of the module. Let's look at how to download the module and how to begin to use it. The first thing you do is, when you get it either through a link, if you get it through a link, you click the link. It's a save link, and then you download it. I'm going to show you how to do that. But if you have it already, you can download it again through the download button just down here at the left corner. You just click on it, and it will take you to the internet, and where you can now download it. I will quickly do that. So this is it. You click this button here, and it will download it for you. Then after downloading, the next thing you do after downloading is to go to your download, right? Go to your download file. You can go to your download file. You see it downloaded here. This is the one. So you right click it, right click and go to property, and then you enable it, unblock it, and say apply, and say OK. After unblocking, you will double click on it, and then you open it. It will now be the updated version, of the app. So we created that window so that if there is any feedback from users and say, oh, we want to look at this and this is missing. Like for example, if somebody has recommended that we bring in the staff advances module, and we've done that and updated it. Somebody else is suggesting, okay, why don't we bring in payroll models? We are working on the payroll model to include it into this. Somebody else, earlier suggested that we bring in the procurement model, and we included it. So whenever there is an update, you can get the update by clicking this button, and you too can suggest what can be done to the template until the template is now used. And I'm telling you, this can revolutionize our financial management system in the local NGO. So let's see now, this has been downloaded. How you know that it has opened properly is that whenever you click any of the buttons, it will work properly. It will move to the different modules. So now the next thing you need to do is to register it. Nothing happens until you bring in an NGO name and register it on this system. Let's see how you do that. Each of the information here is coming from the database. So the first and most important thing you will do is to go to your database, the country database, and write the name of the organization that is using the model. Let's say that here now we are dealing with an organization called ABC, uh, um, let's call it ABC Charity Organization, right? ABC Charity Organization. So immediately we do this, if we go back to registration, it will appear here in the drop-down list. We just have ABC here. And when we bring in ABC here, then the system begins to activate. Then we can bring in the country. Let's assume this is an organization located in Zambia. Then if there is a state agency, we put in the state agency. Then who is the funder? The main project, the name of the project. Let's assume it's a World Bank funded project, right? Then how many, so we are trying to use the experience of what we've seen in the field. Each project must have a work plan. So that AWP means annual work plan. So in the work plan, what is the number of activities that need to be achieved in the work plan? Let's assume the number of activities is 15. Put in 15 there. And then here, as you implement, you are going to put in the number of activities out of the 15 that have been implemented. Here you put in the start date. Let's say it's starting on the 1st of January 2024. And this comes in automatically today's date, and then it will end on the 31st of December 2024, right? Then now, later on when you start using the template, you put in your bank reconciliation and all this information here. For now, we are only looking at a few of them. So the currency. So what's the currency of Zambia? Let me assume that is here, right? Then you now have your bank, right? The exchange rate, let's assume is 2,000 to a dollar. We are assuming. Then the bank, let's assume is AWT or Standard Chartered. Right? Standard Chartered Bank. Then the cash book balance that will bring in later when we continue to use it. The username, there is no username for now, you can see. So, okay, all these are here, but I will show you how to put in those usernames. So you go back to the database and you come over here, you have your users here. These are the users, no, sorry, these are the users and these are their designation, right? So each time you want to change any user, let's assume we want to add a user again, number 4. Let's call this one Philip. Okay, there's already Philip there. Thompson Arira, right? Then let this person be, we have a procurement officer, right? So if you go back to registration and you bring out the user there, if you bring out Thompson Arira, it will be a procurement officer. But for this phase here, the main person will be the accountant. So let's find out who that is, a project accountant, Mary Adamu. Now, at this point, all we need to do now is we've started the registration. We can now go back into the database to build our accounting system. Remember, in a typical charity organization, there will be a bank account. So let's go to and build our chart of accounts. So from here, let me assume we are going to have a Standard Chartered Standard Chartered Bank, right? So let's give it an account code. So one of the ways to do it is to use it serially. So let me drag and see if it will give me. Okay, it's given me. Then Standard Chartered, does it have an opening balance? If there's an opening balance, you put the opening balance here, right? All right, so after Standard Chartered, of course, there will be staff. Each of these staff here are can be given advances, right? So let's bring them in here and create account for them because of staff advances. So I'll come over here, Albert and Co. No, I picked the wrong way. I'm talking about the staff. So come over here, we have them here. We're creating account for them. And we'll call them staff debtors. Staff debtors. Here too, staff debtor. So this is debtor, not debtors. Okay, let's just stop there. We'll be using them. Then of course you have other costs. Let's bring in one cost. Let's say travel. What do we call it? Let's call it hall hire. Some of the costs that they will incur. Radio, is it jingle they call it? Radio jingles. Training, or we can call it facilitator allowance. Of course, we are going to have income from World Bank, right? So income from World Bank will be, of course, a crediting account, right? It's an income account. So let me drag again. This is just how to build your chart of account, as simple as this. Then you can build as many accounts as possible and put in their opening balances. Then here you can now create that World Bank account. You create codes for each of the activity. We are assuming these are the different activities in the interest of time, but you can create as many activities as you want, and then you give them a code to which the model will use to post those activities. Even here now, we can call this World Bank project. World Bank project, right? So now this is where you just enter all your database that you need to feed in into the entire models. So after that, now you are ready to start using the software. The next one I'm going to do is how to do your budget. So stay tuned. Let's learn how this works and how it can help our local NGOs. And all right, so let's now start doing a posting. Let's assume that we want to receive funds from a donor, the World Bank funds. Remember, in our budget we said this money has been received. If you go back to the budget, this total amount has been received. We want to record it into the accounting system and not from the budget angle, right? Remember, budget is just like a memorandum, does not go into the ledgers. So now let's go to the registration and receive those forms into our general ledger, into our system. Develop documents, support document to show that we have received those funds. So the first thing we do is that already we have created our chart of account. So we go to create voucher. In this create voucher, this voucher shows up when we bring in the name of the organization we are dealing with. When you bring in the name of the organization, everything about the voucher comes up to life. So then you go up here and select what you want to do. You want to receive money, that's receive voucher. You bring in your receive voucher. So this particular window can do both receive voucher, payment voucher, retirement, and even advances to staff. You see all that in this. So making it simple, and it will post all the transaction, create general ledger transaction for you, and then can even take you the information to the trial balance. Now let's see how that works. Now let's receive these funds, right? To receive funds in accounting, you need two accounts, the income account and the uh, asset account, which is the bank, right? So in this case now, we say we want to receive money from World Bank, right? The first thing we do is that the inflow is from who? It's from World Bank. It's from World Bank, right? Then which bank are we using to receive it? We say we created Standard Chartered Bank, right? Then the account number, 10-digit account number, right? Then here we don't need to choose, since we don't belong to any state. So we now put in the source here, which will still be World Bank, and then the date we receive it, let's assume is today, right? Now, if there is a code related to it, if, for example, there are different World Bank funds that same organization receive, maybe an account code that relates to this particular project, you put it. The funding date can still be today. Why? This is not very compulsory to bring in. Then now, the head, which project is this? Maybe this is a World Bank project. We would have put it in the database, but since we've not, let's leave that. But if you go to back to registration and go to database and go to where we have this here, you can bring in World Bank project, right? We would have put it this side. It's a World Bank project, so that by the time we go back to our voucher, we can actually get that from here, right? It's a World Bank project. Then what activity is this? So here now, you can now post in what you've received this money for. So if we go back to our budget, since we want to be fast, we can say we receive this money for these three activities, right? I'll just pick it. That is what makes it interesting. It's operating on Excel interface, so you can easily copy things and move them to your voucher. You come over here, paste them here. How much were those? You go back there in your budget and pick how much it was in Naira, the local currency, and then you go back to your receipt voucher and you paste the amount here. So now, which account is to be credited? Of course, it's going to be the income account. You just type income from World Bank, right? Which account is to be debited? It's going to be Standard Chartered Bank, right? Standard Chartered Bank in each case here. Standard Chartered Bank. Standard Chartered Bank. So now, which project code? This one will be project code 1. This one will be project code 2. In a deeper class, we will teach you how to to create project code for income so that it goes to a particular, this project code 3, right? This means that these funds will be posted into those activities as funds received for those activities. Now, after that, you can bring in the different people that are to sign. Just come over here and click and select is the accountant, Mary, who is reviewing. Is it the internal auditor? Find out who the internal auditor is. Let's assume it's Matthew. This is a project director. Internal auditor should be Gabriel Sampson. Then here now you bring in the project director to approve, right? Matthew Phillips. Okay, with this now you are ready to process this receipt. Once you process it, it goes post into the different ledgers. Let me quickly show you before we process that the whole thing is empty. You can see nothing apart from the body, nothing have been posted. Even if you go into the trial balance here, you see when you remove all this, the trial balance is 0, no activity, right? No activity. If you select this now, nothing is coming out. So let's go back to our income voucher and post and see what will happen. So if you come back here, this is not ready for posting. But you want to keep a storm of this invoice, right? So this receive voucher. All you need to do is to say copy voucher, to copy the voucher. That's copied it. If you want to view the voucher copied, you come over here and then you see this, right? This is a voucher that has just been copied. All right, so you go back to your voucher and then you process voucher. It will process, that's processed, and it has left one for you, right? An empty one for you to redo. Then you do not post yet, right? You do not post. In fact, we advise with this one that you don't post until after you finish most of your transaction during the year. If you want to view the transaction you just posted, just go to uh, view transaction. You will see them here. These are the one you just processed, not posted. So there's a difference between processing and posting. Processing moves the transaction into entries like this. But when you post, it moves the transaction into the ledger and the different accounts, uh, chart of account that you've created. At this point, these transactions are not in the chart of account. They have not been posted into. All right, now let's continue by looking at how to create your budget, your funders budget. When after you've been awarded the grant, you want to build your budget into the template so that you can be able to track progress and variance. So the first thing you do is to go to your database. Actually, that's where all basic information should be imputed. So in your database, you will come over here. We've already included activities. We are assuming that this particular project has all these activities. So, and you're giving them so D1 is for activity 1, D2 is for activity 2, D3 is for activity 3. So it means that in activity 1, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 activities. Activity 2, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 activities, and so on. So now you build in their budgeted amount. So for activity 1, let's assume the legal awareness workshop is for 2.5 million. Right? Then the establishment of a legal aid fund, maybe it's 10 million. Then the advocacy campaign is 4.5 million. Then you have collaboration with law enforcement. Let's keep that at 3 million. Then you have monitoring, no, collaboration with law enforcement again. Okay, that's a repetition. So let's leave that. We have a monitoring and evaluation of justice initiative, monitoring and evaluation of justice initiative. Let's assume that will be 5 million. You are getting this information from the approved proposal budget, and then you are fixing them in here. Let's just give them rough figures, 6 million. So that will be fast. We are just assuming, and I will just copy from here. So you have to impute all this. Good. So now after doing this, if you go down here, you will see these are the 3 major activities and the budget has been summarized here, right? So, but this is just the database. You now go to your main budget sheet, go back to registration, and then you go to budget. So in the budget here, actually they will come down here as a drop-down menu. So let's say, for example, if you pick the label 1, it brings out the total budget in naira and in dollar. The label 2 brings out the total budget. Then the label 3 brings out the total budget, right? So you have this here. And then when you start receiving funds, that's how the budget should look. If you go back to your financial report, you will see that the budget now comes in, start feeding in here in dollars, right? Start feeding in there in dollars. You can see level 1 and 2. If we bring in the level 3 to come out to here, right? So you see it feeding in here. Let's see if we drag. All right. So that's for the budget. Then after that, after the budget, if you go back to the budget here, when you start receiving funds, maybe let's say in quarter one, deliverable one, you have received out of 285 million, maybe you have received 25 million, 25, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then for deliverable two, you have also received 64 million. So you insert the month funds you received, deliverable three, this is where you do all your budgeting. How much have you received? 69 million have been received, right? It records here amount disbursed. But all these have not started the real accounting work. This is just how to bring in your budgeted amount. You can expand this, you can include more columns. Your number of activities can be it can be expanded and increased so that you have as much as possible. So then after that you go back to your financial report, go back to your registration, and then that is just how to do your budget. Very simple to do your budget. In the next, okay, let's now continue by posting. So I advise that you do posting after you have finished your monthly what we call processing of voucher. You process all your vouchers. You can see here, these are all the ones we've processed. They are lined up here. Process them. If we post them now, they will go into the general ledger, right? You can also post if you want to. So all this now, the next thing we want to do is to post them. We want to post them. We have finished processing for the month. We want to post this voucher. So all we need to do is to click the post button and allow it to post. So it has posted, and it's telling you it has posted 30 transactions, right? Now, you now go to your general ledger, just click on the general ledger, takes you to the general ledger. So this is the general ledger. These are all the accounts that are what credited, while these are accounts that are debited. You can see these are the debited accounts. You can see Matthew coming in here. You can see Hall Hire being debited. You can see Standard Chartered when the money was received. Now, you can actually do corrections here in the general ledger. If, for example, this account is not the account you wanted to credit, one of the things that is rare here is that you can only correct the credit side. You cannot correct the debit side. But we'll work on that and see how we can make it possible. You can also correct the debit side if you want to. So you can correct the credit side of the account by just saying, okay, this is not the account I'm supposed to post these flights to. These are banks. If you can see these two accounts are bank. How you know that this is the account code? If you bring it bank now, if you bring in bank, it will be the same, right? It didn't change. But if I change it now to maybe Hall Hire, you see the code have changed. So it means that that account is the account now that will be reading. Let's take it back to what it was, right? This is the correct account, right? But if you need to correct, that is how to correct. Any of the accounts can be corrected. Any of them can be corrected. For example, if I change this to this, to just change to the corresponding accounting, very interesting. So if after you've checked your general ledger and you agree that all the postings are correct, go back to your registration now. Now you can even go to your trial balance, right? You can go to your trial balance, just go to financial report. You see the financial report have started producing information for us. You can see the information have started feeding in. Total disbursement, everything is feeding in now. Now you can go to your trial balance, go to your trial balance here, and then you can bring in these are all the accounts that have received value. All the accounts that have received value will start showing up here. You just bring them up one by one, one by one. All the accounts that have received value are showing up here. And they are showing their closing balances. They are closing, stationary before. It's their closing balances that are showing here. You see Matthew? is owing us is a debtor. And at the end of the day, you have a balance, trial balance, right? Very simple. Now, but that's not our focus. Let's now see what happens to Matthew's account, right? Go back to registration, go back to uh, create voucher. Let's bring in Mr. Matthew, right? He's the one still here. You see that they are now telling us that Matthew Philip has outstanding balance of normal refund. He has an outstanding balance of this 121.2. Now let's assume at the end of this, Matthew came back from the trip and then made his retirement. You know, let's assume that. So we are going to retire these funds now. You can decide to use this same voucher, and then the as you change the voucher number will change. So what we need to do now is to come over here and repeat everything there that is in that voucher. It's a World Bank project, and this is Matthew Phillips. Let's see what will happen. Then let's assume you retire today minus, let's leave today, right? So now which account are we going to credit? We want to reduce Matthew's indebtedness. So we'll look for Matthew's account, right? It's a debtor, a staff debtor, so we want to reduce it. And then we now bring in, we can go to the voucher itself, the voucher stock, and bring in those activities. That's why it's good to copy your voucher. These are all the activities that were paid for. We come back here, them in here. Now, we know the amounts that were there. We just pick those amounts to is back from the trip. Pick those amounts here. Back to voucher. But we want to assume that he didn't spend all this. Like, let's say that the flight now, let's assume the flight now costs 250,000. Now, we assume that instead of spending 6 nights, he ended up spending only 5 nights. 5. Something happened and he was required in the office, he came back. So this will now be 60,000 times 5, right? Let's assume this will now be 6 days, not nights, 6 days. Use night before, 6 days. For them. So 6 days, we're using 30,000, am I right? I remember. But the best way to do it is to divide this by 7. Now know the rate we use. Okay, it was 30. So now it will be 30,000 times 6. Now, local taxi. Well, he spent the actual local taxi, but instead of 6 days now, did 5. Local taxi for 5 days. I think we did 40 here, so we're going to say 40 1 to 3 times 5. Then we assume that the airport taxi is correct, the communication allowance is correct, right? Now, if you do this, you see that his balance is still showing 180,000. Mr. Matthew Phillips has outstanding advance of 180,000. Wonderful. So he can pay back that 180,000. All he needs to do is to say refund of unused funds, right? The fund of unused funds, that will be the 180,000. So his balance is now 0. So here now we can come over here and pick the various accounts that this ought to be charged to. Is there flights? Bring in flights. If there's no flights, then you create flights in your account. or less because of time, we are going just to charge it to other projects, other event costs, right? But we've shown you already how to create those accounts. Accommodation, let me charge it to all higher because of time. Um, then let's charge it to lunch, right? So have lunch there, lunch and tea break. What again? Local taxi, let's charge it to anything higher. What again? Airport taxi, higher, sometime. What again? Communication allowance, where do we charge this now? Other bank costs, refund. So this refund now will be taken back to bank, right? Bank. You are taking refund back to bank. And the person you are crediting is the debtor. Now, the project code, the same project codes that were used here. Sorry, let me go back. Your voucher terms is what you use again. During the retirement. This refund can now go to the income code for D3. There will be an income. We'll show you how to do the income code. So this one is going back to the bank, right? So now, after this, you are ready to process this advance, right? You are ready to process this advance. This is a retirement. You can now call it liquidation of travel advance to Mr. Matthew Phillips. That's the liquidation. You can copy it now, copy the voucher, and then put all the things here, okay, and then you process. You process that voucher. So after processing, you can post that voucher. When you post the voucher, if you come over here and pick Mr. Matthew Phillips, you see showing this um, standard chartered is showing this. Now let's now go back to the what do we call it? Let's go back to the general ledger. As you go to the general ledger and you come back now, if Mr. Matthew Phillips, this balance is zero, he will not even appear in the list. You see, he's no more in the list because his balance is now zero. It has been posted to the general ledger. His balance is zero. And of course, the bank has this balance. So if you now go to your trial balance financial reports, trial balance, you will see that you have this balance here. Staff debtor is now zero, right? Why the bank has increased. You have all this lunch, tea break, well recorded in this particular area. So let's see if there's any of them we've not picked. Other event costs is already there. So all these are the things, but you see that the staff debtor is now zero and your trial balance is balanced. So beautiful. This is one of the templates that can help you. Later, we will go into all this and see how you can do your executive report, prepare your PDF reports. I mean, you can prepare more than 5 different type of reports using these templates that will give clarity and inform decision, help management to take very, very informed decision. From this angle here, you can actually see what is inside the system, how much is in the balances, all higher, how much has been spent, stationary, how much has been spent, um, laundry, lunch and tea break, how much has been spent, and others. Right? So, very, very interesting. We encourage you to give us feedback. It's just our own way of trying to give back to the society. We are trying to see how we can help strengthen the financial management of most of these implementing partners so that the full result of grants from the different donors will start coming up from the financial report. The program people are doing wonderful job, the finance people are doing wonderful job, but we believe this will be a form of assistance for those local NGOs, those implementing partners that not afford the big ERP. Even the ERPs, some of them are so complex and not as simple as this. They may not be able to navigate through it. Some of them have internet issues. Like in most of these local, from experience, most of these local areas, interior areas, you don't have internet. This does not need internet to work. You can use it to work, and you can, wherever you have internet, you can send it to anybody that want to do all, and it gives you control on how to process transaction without making mistakes. Please, I will enjoy to I will appreciate your feedback on this. And if there's a way we can collaborate to make it better, to make it useful, please, I'm available. Reach out to me through the inbox. You can call my phone number. You can send me an email. All right, welcome. Now let's do advances to staff. How do we do advances to staff? Let's assume we have our staff, our project director is going on a trip to, let's say, going to Bauchi for a field work, and is going to stay there for 7 nights or 6 nights and 7 days, right? We must have had our rates. The rates agreed with the donor or the internal rates. So that you should have in your finger tips. So if you want to do an advance, you still come back to the same voucher here, and then you click on this and you say staff travel advance. Then when you bring in your staff travel advance, there's an unseen drop down menu here. If you just touch it, you'll see it here. Then pick who you want to give staff advance. The project director, you have his name here, Mr. Matthew, right? So if you just type Matthew here, it should come out. If it does not, let's see, Matthew, then Matthew, yeah, Matthew. If there is no Matthew, we have to create Matthew. So I will go down here, go to database, and bring in Mr. Matthew as a staff debtor, right? Because he's going to open project forms till he retires is a staff debtor. So I will include him here, right? I will include him here like this and call him staff debtor, and then give him an account code, right? So after that, I'll go back to my create voucher, and then I'll bring him up here, Matthew, right? When I bring him, the system will generate his outstanding balance. If his outstanding balance is 0, it will show us. So I bring him up here. You see, it's a no outstanding advance for him. So we bring in Mr. Matthew here. Matthew, what did we give him? Matthew Phillips, right? Okay. It automatically generates an advance number for him that is unique, and the date should be today. Then the next thing you will do is to create the account to credit. The account to credit is still going to be bank because money will go out of the bank. Then the account to debit will be his account, the debtor's account. Because for now, the thing has not been retired. We are going to charge it to his account. That's why we are calling him staff debtor. So we have here the head, which project is he going for? The World Bank project. Then here we have a particular activity, maybe is level 3 is going to do there. Then we can give the description. So travel advance for Bauchi um, orientation of beneficiaries, right? We are just assuming this. So now, what are the things we'll pay for? Of course, we'll pay for return ticket, return flight tickets. At this point, we are just only estimating that maybe it's going to need um, 300,000 for return ticket. And then there will be accommodation, right? Accommodation for 6 nights. 6 nights, right? So let's assume our accommodation is 60,000 per night. We'll say 60, 1 to 3 times 6, right? Then it's coming back on the 7th day. Now say DSA, or what you call per diem, for um, 7 nights. In our experience, we discovered that most of the IPs will just write accommodation, return flight, per day, and they will not tell the quantity that is in there. And when you say return ticket, we know that it's to and fro, right? So you always put the description in such a way that the auditors will be able to know exactly the quantity, the volume of the activity. So for 7 nights, we have, let's say feeding is 30,000, we are assuming, times 7. We have this. Let's assume that we are also going to pay him local taxi costs for 6 days. Let's assume local taxi is 40,000 around town for 6 days. If where it's going, we don't have an office and there's no vehicle, car taxi. Then we can also have airport taxi, right? Airport taxi is always drop and take, right? The ones in when you land in both sides. So let's assume it's 20,000 times 2. Then let's think outside the box. What again will he really need? Some organization will give communication allowance, some may not. Communication allowance when you are traveling like that. Let's say communication allowance is just a flat rate of 50,000. Sorry, 50,000. Then most of the UN agency will give their staff or some staff what we call terminal. Terminal, let's assume terminal is always times 4. 4 times, well, if you have terminal, you don't need airport taxi. So let's leave that since you have airport taxi. Right? So this now you are ready to post. Let's take the project codes. Let's bring in the project codes. Project codes. We are zooming now, but you must have put in your project codes in there. So all this, we fix them in here, and then we are ready to post. We check and make sure everything is correct. We have put in, okay, we've not put in the account details. So this now will now be charged to Mr. Matthew's account. So we say Matthew, the debtor, bring him up here, Matthew, until when he retires. That is when we now reconcile that account. And you see, immediately we post this account will start reading that balance. Of course, right now the account that was 0 before, if you go up, it's reading that it's owing Mr. Matthew Philip, staff debtor is here to refunded this amount of money. Don't worry, it's because he has not gotten the money in his hand. Once he gets the money, the language will change. He's saying he's yet to be refunded because he's yet to get this money in his account. We are just raising the voucher. Once the money hit his account, come back and you will see that language will change. That is the one owing. All right, so at this point now, the next thing we do is to save the staff advance. Just say copy voucher. Hmm? Then after that, we process the voucher. Process it. Okay, let's assume we've done all this.